accordingly.
Okay, I will call the November 12th, 2024 regular board meeting to order. Charlie, if you would do roll call.
Where's Steve there? Oh, sorry. Chair Beecham,
Here.
Vice Chair Fonger,
Here.
Board Member Cadwalder,
Here.
Board Member Crawford,
Here.
And then we'll make a note that Board Member Straubin is absent. He did email me and let me know he had a family commitment.
Okay,
Move to excuse Andrew's absence.
I'll second.
it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Approval of the minutes, approval of the agenda.
So I have one request for an addition. I'd like to add action item E, which will be consideration of a 9-year energy and renewable energy credit transaction.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved with the addition.
Supported. It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the October 15th, 2024 regular board meeting.
Move to approve the previous board meeting minutes.
And I'll support it. It's been moved, supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Safety moment.
All right, so Megan is going to handle the safety moment this month, and I laughed when I saw it. I couldn't help but laugh again, but it's a timely safety moment. So take it away, Russ.
So love cooking safety tips for you for this Thanksgiving with a nice little friend who's gonna teach you all about them.
Get cooked.
Perry's favorite critter.
Concerned about squirrels.
Mainly fires only because, or sorry, home cooking only because of fires over Thanksgiving. So, just be really careful about that. Some nice little tips he's got for you. Pretty self-explanatory, but it's always good to remember. And there you go. Hopefully that'll help you have a safe Thanksgiving.
So looking at the frayed cords and stuff, should that be done by a professional, not an amateur home do-it-yourselfer?
Best practice is throw it away. If you're not sure, buy a new one.
On the end of the prongs of the appliances, there's usually there's two little holes. You ever notice that? That's so you can take a wire and you can put that through there and hook them together, and it works, and power just flows like.
It flows hard.
It's like putting a penny in a old fuse.
Yeah, it works great.
I think we're trying to prevent house fires. The goal is not to start house fires.
So wait a minute, we're promoting safe use of electricity, right? Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks. Moving on, public comment. It's basically only board members and employees are here. Moving on to action items.
All right, so the first action item is, and actually we'll kind of talk, the next three are all related, but I'm going to hand it over to Megan. She kind of pulled this package together, and there will ultimately end up being the request for 3 different motions to address 3 different things, but they're all kind of connected. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so the first one, so they're all related to banking changes, all three of them. So the first one is just updating, a couple of our check signers, just with the change, in Craig becoming the vice chairperson and then, Zach taking over his role. We just figured we would do them at the same time, get them out of the way and
And I'm gonna chime in here, basically for the public. We require on all of our checks 2 signatures. And so there are times when we have checks that need to go out and we don't have 2 signers in the office. Charlie might be gone someplace. Julie, it happens. Not very often anymore, but it does happen. And that's where I'll get a call or again, in this case, Craig or, somebody that's, once in a while, are you in town? Can you stop by? We need another signature, et cetera. And the purpose of that is we require 2 signatures on all of our checks. And it's just it's an audit / safety protocol. And that's why that we need these people, extra people to be able to sign.
Yes, exactly.
so Charlie, did you want me to do a motion with each one or do all 3 of them do the motion?
I'll make the motion that on this, that we add Craig and Zach and remove Andrew and Ryan. And it really works. Andrew, I probably, because majority of the time when we need signatures, he's at his job in Grand Rapids. So it works well to have somebody that's capable or can stop in. So I would make that motion to make those changes.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
There's paperwork that I have here, so don't leave before you sign it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly just Craig because I can get back whenever, but.
Yeah,
mostly
okay.
just Craig. Other than actually, all the signers have to re-sign it, so Harry, you as well. So, just. And then the second one, I know that we have talked about, Huntington's Choice Pay in the past. That's, the offering that we, are going to start, being able to give, customers the option of how they want their deposit refund, refunded to them. This is the one that'll give them either the option to do ACH or like a store card, like a Starbucks or Target or whatnot. They obviously still will have the option of a check as well, but these are just additional options that we, will offer. And so with that, we, like I said, that is Huntington's product. And right now our deposits sit, or the checking part of it sit at Fifth Third. So we would like to open, just a basic checking account with Huntington. Essentially just transfer that money from Fifth Third to Huntington and serve the exact same purpose. It'll just be easier, going between the Choice Pay program and then the Huntington account. So we just recommend a motion to open that new checking account with Huntington.
So I have a question. With the Fifth Third, did we receive any interest on those deposits, that money?
The checking portion, no.
Okay.
But only about 50 grand sits in checking, just because that's the minimum balance. And then the rest of it sits in an interest-bearing account.
Okay, because we do, correct me if I'm wrong, on those deposits, we do pay out interest on those, correct?
We pay back the, just market-based interest, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to make that change, moving from Fifth Third to Huntington's new Choice Pay offering.
So, yeah. Craig moved, I support.
Okay, it's been moved by Craig and supported by Daniel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Last one for me, I was just going through the policies, as we were talking about this change to the choice pay offering. We do have one policy that is about credit refunds that references that the customer will get paid by a check. So we just wanted to update it to take out the specific check option, just so it's not saying, it has to be a check, so it's just more inclusive to the option that we offer.
Sure.
And when if they request that, say, Target card or whatever, how do we I mean, I guess, I'm old school. We have a check, the check's canceled, we have this information, we have this hard copy of that. How do we, doing this, how do we ensure that there's a audit?
Yep, so we obviously have the DAFRA reports that show, what the customer received as a refund, and then the choice pay program does have reports that will show the customer what they chose as an option, the amount, so it does have a paper trail. It would just be going into the program and getting that out of there.
And essentially for us, it doesn't matter what they choose, because when you get your deposit, or you get your refund, we'll just send you an email. And Megan and I both walked through the process. They gave us kind of a test. But you get an email, it'll say, hey, you've got a deposit refund. I don't know exactly what the wording is, but you essentially have a link. And then when you go there, it will give you the options. So the customer doesn't have to determine or decide what option they want to go at the time they're getting it, or at the time they're talking with us. We take it, Megan takes everything, dumps it into choice pay. Then they make their selection, and the reports come out of it. So,
Well, I just, again, when you receive a check, then you endorse the check, I'm looking at it. I want protecting low, light, and power. I want to make sure that a consumer can't come back and say, oh, no, I never, in my mind, get an understanding of how do we prove that they received that money?
and there's an audit trail. The whole, yeah,
Digital.
yeah, all the digital audit trail.
I don't think you guys are gonna do physical cards, so.
No, yeah, it's no physical cards. It's all digital. So it's digital audit trail the whole way.
Okay.
And this is based on a zero balance that they paid everything up to get the refund. It's not the refund gets applied towards their
So that's
balance.
typically what happened. The refund, people don't pay their final bill, and then the refund gets applied to their final bill. And then anything that's left over after that is sent to them.
Okay.
But if they're in good standing, how long do they have to be in good standing to get that? Don't we refund over a period of time, or?
Not
Or
anymore. No,
not anymore, we
the
keep-
only people that have deposits now are renters,
Okay,
and we always keep renters' deposits on file until they move out.
okay. Thank you. So I would entertain a motion to make this change in the verbiage.
So moved.
And support. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
All right, this is me now. We'll start with the memo, Megan, and then we'll go to the next page here in a minute. But so included in your board packet is a purchase power commitment authorization for a capacity transaction. Last month, I believe it was last month, I'm losing track of the months, but as part of the second amendment to the Hart Solar PPA, the developer made capacity for the 2025 and 2026 summer and fall seasons. The planning year 2025, 2026, the seasons of summer and fall, they made capacity available at a below market price. And this transaction ultimately fills our short position from a fall or a summer and fall capacity position ahead of the planning reserve auction that will occur next spring. So included in your packet is a bunch of additional information. At the end of the day, this is a $130,050 commitment to fill our short position for the 2 seasons. Casey and I worked with the staff at MPPA to I guess, vet this deal and really dive into the details. Current market value on capacity transaction is roughly $5.75 a KW month. This deal came in at, got to look, 4.25, so $4.25. So this significantly below the market value of bilateral transactions for open capacity. And then again, there's a bunch of details in here. Happy to answer any questions, but I want to go ahead and highlight our capacity position. So the graph on the top is a longer term outlook on our overall capacity position. And what this graph highlights is that we really only have a short position kind of summer, fall, and spring of next year. And then the new deals that have ultimately been delayed fill in our short position. I also want to highlight how this is a little bit of a moving target. What you see on top is from a position report that we get from MPPA on a monthly basis. MPPA fine tunes those calculations this time of year when they get coincidental peak information from MISO, and they can start honing in on what the planning reserve margin requirement is going to be for each utility. And as the board's aware, we've seen some pretty significant load growth with our industrial class. We weren't sure what impact that would ultimately have on our overall planning reserve margin requirement. But you'll notice it increased it about 0.6 megawatts. So that short position of 3.1 megawatts, 4.5 megawatts actually grew to 3.7 and 5.1. And that's where the recommended offtake comes from. It's kind of a unique transaction, or not a unique transaction. It's a different transaction than this board is typically used to. We tend to not need to address a short capacity position with a strictly bilateral capacity transaction. But when we were given fairly short notice of the closing of one of our most significant assets, coupled with significant development delays in a variety of projects, we've got this gap in our capacity. You can see kind of how the strategy would have played out if we didn't see a year delay. Everything would have kind of been pulled back to the left, but not the world we're in. So I would bring this up to highlight that the most economical way to fill this open capacity position is not with a firm investment in a resource. It's truly just a bilateral transaction to fill that short position. I will also note that this transaction only fills our summer and fall short position. We still have about a 4 megawatt short position going into the spring. Casey and I, again, this is one of the things we wanted to vet. We are looking at and working with MPPA on purchasing that short, or getting into a transaction with another member who has lengthened their capacity for spring, and getting into a market-based transaction for that season alone. So in general, that's our strategy for filling our planning year 25-26 short position with capacity. And then as we move forward, and again, we expect that short position to get eaten up a little bit through load growth. MPPA projects load growth over time, but it's hard to model in a lumpy change like we saw at the industrial last year. So we're seeing more course adjustments this year, followed by a more steady trend moving forward. But included in your packet, the next document is the actual purchase power commitment, and you can see that it's the 5.1 megawatts or 5,100 kW at the price of $4.25 per kW month, to total $65,025 for each season. And there you get the maximum commitment of the $130,050 total commitment to fill our short position. Only other thing I'll highlight is this is a power supply cost. So it will roll into our PCA and ultimately be factored into our overall cost of power. And so happy to answer any questions. There's a lot of details and contained in the memo. And instead of trying to decide exactly what is important to you all, I'll answer questions.
What is it maximum commitment?
That's just how they word it. In general, they call it a maximum commitment because this is the structure of a bilateral transaction. It's not relative to this one, but typically we don't have firm pricing like this for bilateral transactions. So MPPA will look at the markets and say, we expect to transact at this level. We'll add a safety factor in there, and then they'll get an approval to that maximum, anticipating transacting for an amount less than that.
Sure.
This one, it's just not relevant because it is firm pricing. So I think that's just a byproduct of the structure of the paperwork for other transactions.
It's interesting to see our capacity is now being broken down into seasons.
Yeah, it's a change.
Adjusting to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a change, and there's nuanced details. That was a big change 2 years ago, Casey. Next year, we'll see additional changes to the structure that will layer in what's called a reliability-based demand curve. Started with Greg today and got stuck on that one, but
It was an acronym.
yeah, no, there is no acronym on that one. It will change how it will. Yeah, submit one, but it'll change how. It'll change how certain resources are accredited based on their anticipated value to the grid support when it's needed.
Like adjust for solar and
yes, that's a lot of it. Is the next solar project that comes on, every new project, because the load profiles look similar, provides incrementally less reliability characteristics. There's diminishing value of returns for each incremental level of solar that you add to the grid when it comes to reliability and what it's going to do to support the grid in the worst scenarios.
Got it.
What does this do to us ratepayers as an increase, or you haven't gotten to that?
It's not really an increase. It's an all-in power supply cost. Capacity is an embedded cost. In the past, it's been an embedded cost in other, in our power supply. So we might, Campbell 3 plant, we have costs tied up in it. There's embedded costs in energy. There's embedded costs in capacity. It's just we had that ownership stake, so we were the recipients of those byproducts, but we were ultimately paying for them through the transaction. But in general, we are seeing upward pressure on energy markets in general. It's redundant, but we're seeing increases in capacity prices. We're seeing increases in energy prices. We're going to see increases in renewable energy credit prices, and it's just a byproduct of the changing energy landscape. But as far as an actual rate impact because of this transaction, it's gobbled up in so many other things, because while we're bringing this on, we're also next year not going to be having any commitments towards Campbell. Or, well, I shouldn't say that. Minimal commitments. Our only commitments will be remediation and decommissioning and remediation expenses. But we won't have that energy, so we won't be paying for coal. We won't be paying all the costs associated with operating the plant. So this is kind of an offset. So you'd have to really look at our power supply in total to get what that rate impact is going to be.
The only reason I say, because I've been talking to several people in that neighborhoods, some business people, and they said they have actually seen a spike in low light power costs. So either they're using more power or their rates have gone up. And I'm not sure. And they said, well, what can the city do about it? I said, the city has no control over what low light power structure. If you have a concern or questions, contact them and go from there. So it's probably been maybe 2-3% that they're seeing supposedly, so I'm
That's-
not sure.
And that's probably fairly accurate. I mean, because and we'll get to it during the informational items, when we look at the PCA, that fluctuates. And you will see fluctuations throughout the year. And it's not because we're collecting, I mean, we're collecting more money, but we're not marginally keeping any more money. It's really a pass through of our power supply that rolls into this PCA. And it fluctuates to make sure that we retain the margin that's necessary to operate the grid, to operate our system, to pay our employees, to meet our expenses. But the devil's in the details when it comes to increases that people are seeing. You just have to really look at it over a length of time. Because right now, the average cost of a kilowatt hour is fairly high because sales are down. And there's a fixed component of your bill, the customer charge, that's a fixed piece, whether you use 1 kilowatt hour or you use 1,000 kilowatt hours, there's a certain cost that we need to collect from the customer just to have access to the grid. Similar on the water and wastewater side of a ready to serve charge, there's certain costs that we incur before anybody turns a light on. So when you have significantly reduced sales this time of year, if you look at a per kilowatt hour basis cost, it does creep up. And there's an interesting graph where the residential cost per kilowatt hour went up. Every other class went down actually. And it's just a byproduct of how many kilowatt hours can you amortize that fixed charge over. And as you have very, very small sales this time of year, because weather drives so much, you just have far fewer kilowatt hours to amortize that fixed cost across those kilowatt hours. So again, the devil's in the detail. They're always welcome to send them our way.
I can get hold of Maggie.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't.
we have seen historically where, somebody, saw an increase in our rates, but we very seldom when we hear, oh, we had a decrease because the PCA, it fluctuates and we've had where that has decreased. And that has been reflected, but
Yeah, I never hear anybody complain when the gas is 288, but at 329, oh my God, they went up 40 cents.
Yeah. So, and again, it all depends. I mean, we're happy to sit down with any customer, explain their bill to them, understand that we live in this every day. So they're not necessarily intuitive sometimes. We try to be as transparent as possible, but sometimes transparency leads to questions or just a need to dive a little deeper to make sure there's an understanding. So always happy to sit down with customers and talk to them.
I will entertain a motion to approve the authorization of the purchase power capacity transaction.
Yeah, a motion to authorize and direct the GM to execute the PPCA form contained in the board packet. The maximum commitment of $130,050, contingent upon the MPPA's Board of Commissioners approval tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes, and that was the one thing I did want to mention is this will go to the full board tomorrow. Timing is a little tough on this transaction because they're requesting all these items come back before our next meeting, but the MPPA board hasn't voted on it. So it is all contingent on a passage at the board level tomorrow at MPPA.
And I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved, supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
You think that'll go?
It will.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, it won't be an issue. Yeah. It's more or less just a formality until it's not. All right. Famous last words. I understand. All right, so this is this next item is a consideration of a 9-year energy plus renewable energy credit transaction. This is another transaction that has not been approved by the MPPA board yet. So any action taken tonight would be contingent on a full board approval. I also don't tend to add items like this. If you'll scroll down to the total commitment, I do want to highlight this is roughly a $5.5 million transaction. but it's over 9 years, so a little over $600,000 a year for 9 years. And then if you'll go ahead and bring up the other document, Megan, I would appreciate it. So just to talk a little bit about this, this is a critical component of our renewable energy requirements strategy. And one uniqueness for us is that municipals, and when I say us, municipal electric utilities, we have the ability to leverage market rec purchases or essentially over the counter rec purchases for compliance through 2035. All other utilities are capped, I believe, at a 5% over the counter purchase limit up through 2035. So this is, you're just talking about it, this is an opportunity that's unique to municipals. As I mentioned, it's a 9-year transaction. It'll start January 1, 2027, and it will run through December 31, 2035. And that timing is advantageous because it essentially gives, this is call this a stopgap or a bridge deal that will allow us to develop more firm power supply commitments. But essentially, it's a 2-part transaction. One piece of it is essentially it's not essentially, it is just a bilateral energy transaction that is not tied to any specific resource. So it's a resource agnostic energy that will meet about 10% of our around the clock need. And it will be delivered to what's called MISH Hub. So it'll be delivered essentially into our MISO zone. What's important is it's a around the clock energy. So it is for the next 9 years, the counterparty, every hour of the year, every hour for the next 9 years, they have to deliver a firm energy requirement to MISH Hub. So with our PPAs, like the solar PPAs, if a hailstorm hits a solar farm and it stops producing, we don't have any expense tied to it, but we also don't have the energy coming off of it. That developer, there's no obligation to replace that energy. A financially firm transaction like this, that developer has to, for the next 9 times 8,760 plus your leap years in there, they have to, for every hour, make that delivery to us. So that's a huge win for us. It is also paired with a renewable energy or REC purchase that actually is coming. The RECs are generated from a resource specific generation from a specific generation resource, which is a hydro facility located in MISO South, which is kind of unique. The RECs are ultimately going to be generated from a dam, hydro plant connected to a reservoir on the Louisiana-Texas border. But the developer will deliver the RECs, so the renewable energy credits that we've talked about, so it's our vehicle to compliance. They will deliver those RECs to the MyRECs program, which is the Michigan Renewable Energy Credit Platform. Everything for compliance purposes has to be loaded into that system and retired through that system to meet our PA 235 requirements, which are our renewable energy requirements that were passed at the end of last year. One of the unique things about this transaction is in the strategic rationale for executing this transaction is because we can leverage over the counter REC purchases up through 2035. We kind of separate our REC bank into 2 buckets: RECs that can be used for compliance purposes beyond 2035, and RECs that can't be used for compliance purposes beyond 2035. These will not qualify for post 2035 compliance requirements. Won't get into all the details, but that's also why the transaction ends at the end of 2035. But what it will allow us to do is it'll allow us, because a REC has a 5-year shelf life, it'll allow us to use these first, and then any surplus on an annual basis we'll be able to carry forward and use RECs generated by Hart, Calhoun, Assembly One, Pegasus, all of our renewable assets that are in our generation portfolio. those RECs will be able to hold on to and use post 2035. So this is a really strategic deal that buys us quite a bit of time, and time's the biggest challenge. We've seen that with time and money, but with all renewable deals and the amount of amendments that we brought to the board, none of these renewable projects are being developed quickly and on a timeline that will mesh with legislative requirements. So the nice thing about this is it's a bundled deal. As we move to more renewables, having that around the clock power is going to be more and more important instead of this intermittent power that is there available for part of the day and not available for other part of the day. So having that around the clock need and being able to fill 10% of our need is a really advantageous structure, and it's a right size program. Very much fits inside of the stability hedge plan that the board elects to participate on an annual basis. And then again, the only other piece, and pricing, MPPA does a price to value analysis on pretty much anything that they recommend to the board. And their analysis really indicates that this is because energy prices have been suppressed for the last year, basically, and there's a lot of unknowns moving forward. It's a really advantageous time to transact based on the price to value of this. Happy to get into any of the more intricate details, but it's kind of a unique transaction, or it's a unique structure that really has never needed to be entertained until we get into a situation where we need to find RECs and we just flat out can't generate them through our own projects on a timeline that aligns with the legal requirements. So any questions?
I know you can't answer this, so
Ask it anyways.
I guess the time frame, like 9 years, and again, this is basically about politics. You know, our president-elect has gone on record that he's going to reduce the cost of energy and this and that. And I mean, has the MPPA, I know this is really early in the whole thing, but are they getting a gauge of where's this going? How is he going to reduce the energy? I mean, or do you just, or is it just a bunch of political BS and we need to move forward?
Yes, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. We need to move forward in a non-speculative nature. We can speculate all day of what the markets are going to do in the future, but it's nothing but speculation. And we're not in the business of, we're not speculative developers. We're not speculative traders. We're here to
Provide for our constituents.
yes, provide for our customers. And that's why I think this deal is such a good deal. It's not overly committal. So there may be changes down the road, but I think, yeah, we might find out that this is an opportunity to minimize the opportunity for buyer's remorse is really what it is. And I know it sounds like a longer term transaction. It's 9 years. At this point, we're still 2 years out from the start of it. So we're gonna have multiple presidents. We're gonna go through multiple administrations just through this deal. But the alternative is to sign an even longer term PPA, multiple longer term PPAs where the prices are even more are elevated beyond this. If you compare this to the cost of a solar PPA, things like that, this is probably 20% less than those. So if you look at the energy landscape in Michigan, because municipals are the only ones that have the ability to leverage these over-the-counter REC purchases, other entities are going to be forced to invest in physical projects and physical assets with elevated prices, and they're going to be committed to those for 20 to 25 years. The alternative is leveraging a unique transaction structure like this that only commits to 9 years, which still sounds like a long time, but for one, I would also say, and this is part of my own opinions, it seems counterintuitive for the administration to force things on states when they have tended to defer to state rights. And the state has, this is a state law, not a federal law. So I don't know exactly how the federal government would intervene at the state level and how that, the optics of that would work for any political party. Not trying to get into that by any means. But I think there will ultimately be changes to the energy law as challenges, utilities run into challenges. But the key for us in this one is let's buy some time. And this is a time buying, the value of the energy, the value, the mark to market, the forward curves still indicate that the price to value is a favorable transaction. So based on the information that we have today and objectively evaluating it without speculating on potential outcomes in administration, this is a quality deal that won't put our customers in a disadvantaged position, standalone for our customers, but also a disadvantage. It won't put them in a disadvantaged position as compared to other utilities in Michigan too.
Okay. Any other questions?
And I'll say, if the board, this is a big transaction, this is the first the board is hearing of it. If the board's not comfortable making a vote this month, we can take this one to the December board meeting, but I wanted to make sure that the board saw it in case there were any reservations or desire to take a deeper dive. But I've vetted this pretty close, and actually was texting with Steve earlier. But Steve and I, Steve took time to do a little deeper dive with me and really peel back some of the layers of the onion on this transaction. And I'm confident, he's confident, MPPA is confident, Steve's confident, and I'm confident that this is ultimately a deal that I'm comfortable recommending for the board.
So 9 years of energy to add a price.
Yes, it's a financially firm price, but that price won't be, because it's a bilateral transaction. Pricing will be based on forward curves of the market and a negotiation at the time of closing. So that's why on this one, you have a not to exceed amount, a maximum not to exceed financial commitment of 5.6. MPPA expects to be able to transact under that level. Yeah, and again, these are some weird deals. Obviously, MPPA and the developer prefer not to have all of the pricing in.
How far out is that?
It'll close. The plan is to close. I've got it actually. The plan is to close pricing refresh and transact the last 2 weeks of December.
Okay, so not far.
No.
Far out.
And it's not far, and that's why there's a quick turnaround, and why I'm bringing it to the board is right now it's an advantageous time for us to transact, and that's why they're asking for a fairly expeditious return of the PPCs.
I mean, I feel like our position, finding power, is just a massive struggle. So like the positives on this, that touches on, 10% of annual load is like 3 of our past solar PPAs. I don't think it's all 3 together probably get to 10%. I don't think.
No, they tend to be a couple percent of our total offtake that we need.
And then, the whole, the RECs kind of makes sense. And that I could see that getting, we've talked, but just in general, that could be those, in my, rough opinion, those will probably get revised in terms of the state regulations on those. Especially once like consumers and DTE get into problems with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think will happen, but at the same time, like you said, we still have to plan for being in compliance regardless. It's not, can't like depend on that happening.
Yeah, and the nice thing is this doesn't overcommit. It moves us in the right direction without overcommitting us, which if we didn't have an over-the-counter REC purchase, we would have to get overcommitted, or we would have to be far more committed because you immediately take on certain risks as far as intermittency risk, congestion risk, transmit. There's a lot of risks associated with continuing to layer in additional firm resources, and those commitments are significantly longer in duration. And MPPA looks at the imputed costs that they anticipate, or they try to reverse engineer any deal to try and decide what are each product worth and what are the imputed costs built into the total PPA price. And the RECs are coming in at a favorable position, and the energy is indicated as a high, price to value relationship. So it's advantageous on both ends.
And like, yeah, around the clock renewable energy, wind and solar doesn't get you that. I don't know natural gas, I don't know if it'll be considered.
Landfill gas is our only real round the clock renewable energy reserves.
Which is kind of dirt renewable energy in a way. They might separate, you never know.
But I also want to be clear, the energy does come from an agnostic resource.
Yeah.
It is not, the
Sure.
energy itself
Sure.
is not associated with the hydro, but they've paired the products up so that the RECs offset the energy. So for all intents and purposes on paper, the energy we're getting is being offset. There's a difference between it coming from a renewable resource and being offset by RECs. But it's essentially a married product.
The renewable energy RECs.
When it's all said and done, the deal gets us 10% clean and 10% renewable, regardless of where that energy came from.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
A motion to. Oh, I don't have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it would be.
Direct the general manager to.
Execute.
Is it on here?
No, but you,
Read that, or
yeah, but replace it with purchase power commitment authorization for the Energy Plus REC transaction presented to the board.
a motion to authorize and direct the general manager to execute the purchase power commitment authorization form for
The
Okay.
9-year Energy Plus REC
the
transaction
9-year Energy Plus REC transaction.
at a
Not to
financial
exceed
commitment. I've got it right here.
5.656.
5.656.
$391.78.
That number. We'll piece it together in the minutes. Everybody understands? Yeah, so essentially the motion. Yeah. Yeah, so essentially the motion is to approve the PPC, which will ultimately execute this agreement and does include a not to exceed financial commitment for $5,656,391.78. I captured your.
Oh,
Yeah,
correct.
I'll chip in the 78 cents. I don't know how you're getting right down. Okay, and I heard a support.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried. On to informational items.
All right, the first one is very exciting. I want to will you zoom out just a touch, Megan? So, as the board is aware, we conducted our second public power customer satisfaction survey, and for 2 years in a row, we attained the highest honor recognized through the program, which is the Gold Award. It requires a 95% overall satisfaction score, which is a very lofty number, and something that we're very proud of. I couldn't be more proud to receive this award. You see the picture that we took that we'll be using for marketing purposes and publishing. So really great team effort. I think this award is really meaningful because it reflects the hard work of everybody on the team. And it also highlights that the collective effort of the team is ultimately stronger than the sum of the parts. And that's really meaningful to me. Couldn't be more proud of the team. Think it's an enormous accomplishment. Touches on everything that we do, from reliability to the faces that you see when when customers are interacting. Yeah, it's a really meaningful award. And again, 2 years in a row of gold. And again, this was the second year. There's only 2 utilities in the country that received the gold award again. Congratulations to Braintree Electric Utilities in Massachusetts. They're the only other gold recipient this year, and what an awesome name. Braintree, kind of cool. Could have fun with that on Halloween. But then also wanted to highlight these numbers. This is getting into some more of the data here, but as part of the program, you can see our customer satisfaction scores for the different questions that were asked. And then you can also see, and PPDS is Public Power Data Source. It's what APPA calls that. But when you look at how we fared against Michigan utilities, how we fared against Midwest utilities and the national averages, I'd say we're not just slightly above the others. And this is why I personally am so proud of this. It truly is a team effort, and to see that difference between us and the pack, I think it goes to our mission statement, or whatever we call it in our strategic plan of being a premier utility. And there's always more to do, more growth, more work to be done. So we don't want to rest on our past successes. We want to keep this momentum going. And I think the other thing that is so meaningful for this is the fact that we can't nominate ourselves. We can't just fill out an application. This is something that our customers have to take time out of their day, and they have to see the value of public power. And I'm very proud that our customers appreciate the value of public power. So any questions, any details anybody wants to get into? And I'm happy to share this with the board, but wanted to make sure that we highlighted exactly some of the more granular details of the survey this year. Really highlight the great work from the team.
How many people participated in the survey?
I think it was just under 10% of our residential customers.
Curious, like, if we get bad ratings, or do we have ways to reach out to those people?
So this survey isn't yeah.
Probably not.
Not yet, but I've talked to other utilities that use this, and they worked with Great Blue Research to layer in a question that basically allowed the,
Would you like to be contacted about?
would you like to be contacted? If so, what would you like somebody to talk to you about?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to be anonymous? Things like that. So we're going to look at potentially adding that next year, and allowing our customers anonymity, or allowing them to welcome a conversation.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that's something that's on the radar.
Jim, can we get on your city council docket? And I would certainly like to have city council.
I was gonna make that here in my comments to see if Terry will be at the next thing. I will bring it up under my comment.
Where we can actually show like this graph and stuff.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I'll touch base with you, but yeah, I was going to
Free
read.
to be there, because I'd like to have you presented, and especially the award avenue. I can say I attended this and they got the gold award too as well. But again, if you want to show the facts, and
Yes, I'll reach out to Mike and work with Mike on getting some information and data ready for the packet, or ready for the presentation. So I'll look at my calendar the rest of the week. I think I'm planning on being there next week, but I want to double
doubt,
check.
probably knowing how we've worked in the past, we'll probably only have one meeting in
December.
December. So I don't know if it's still time to get out for next Monday.
Well, that's
You
right.
can check, if not. maybe the first Monday in December.
I'll probably shoot for the first Monday in December. So I know Mike's trying to get the packet out a little early. This information probably won't go in the packet. It'd be more just for presentation when I'm there.
Correct.
But I want to make sure I give him plenty of heads up to get on the agenda. So yeah, I'll work with Mike and we'll work out the details. But that was on the radar to talk with city council as well.
I'm glad that we do have the column of renters, because that is your actual, to be honest with you. The people that put in for the survey and gave you these high numbers, they have nothing to gain. They don't have a last name. You know what I'm saying? Some people in a small town will just move it through. But when you have renters that were at a 98.5%, that's an actual.
And the thing I like about that is there's a higher likelihood that they have interacted with us directly
Absolutely.
as a renter. You know, where a lot of homeowners, I mean, how long have you been a customer at your house? I mean, it's just so you're less likely to have those interactions with us, where a renter is more likely to have set up service or moved or transacted with us
Or had other services and.
or has a perspective elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I couldn't be happier with the outcome. I've gotten to know the folks over at Great Blue Research a little bit, and we get recognized for this nationally, and I think that's something that's pretty neat. Routinely get. This is why we got highlighted in the APPA or the APPA magazine last month or whenever it was that Perry brought up. But yeah, it's a great program and a great honor.
Not that 92 is bad on offering innovative programs and services. I mean, you've got paperless billing, you've got online paying. I mean, I don't know what else they would expect for services and programs that you would offer.
But no, it's an area that we focus on every year. And I think it's specifically interesting if you look at the under 45. It's a stark difference. And I think some of that is, and we talked about this last year, is if they came from consumers and you stack up our offerings versus theirs, consumers has 1.8 million customers. And if you look at how many staff members they dedicate or what programs they dedicate to be spread, they might have 3 people that deal with something for 1.8 million customers. The equivalent of for us is 7 minutes of Megan's time on an annual basis. Yeah. So it can be difficult, and if they're moving, but we also don't want to have programs and offerings just to have them either. But I would say we have expanded our programs and offerings in response to this survey. I don't think we necessarily have the results to necessarily back it up, but we've started doing the tree giveaways. We've expanded some of our EWR offerings. We try to get into some smart home kits. So there's certain things that we have layered in that we think makes sense, but we don't want to do anything just to try and get a response and have you were in the business, in the product lineup card.
Oh, yeah.
Businesses have product lineup cards. This is what we do. We're not looking to expand our product offering card just to have more on it. We're looking to provide value to our customers.
Because it costs so much more to add to that line, because now I have to have training and this and marketing. It gets to be very expensive.
And one of the things that's interesting, and I don't say I'm disappointed in this, is one of the things that we did on the heels of the first survey is Lisa did quite a bit more proactive marketing of certain programs that we do have. And we've seen huge uptake in participation. Appliance recycling. I mean, Zach, I guarantee you guys have noticed how many more appliances you're picking up. So we've taken that in a response, as a reaction has been, let's market what we do have and make sure the awareness is out there. And we've seen quite a bit of growth in taking advantage of these programs, but we didn't see necessarily an uptick in responses indicating it. So it's something we're going to keep focusing on, but we're going to be strategic in how we any results or outcomes that come from that data point. Any other questions on the survey or comments?
It's great.
Thank you.
It's if we got a 78 as a utility, I would think we're doing really well because utilities are generally low in satisfaction, even if they're good. So
Yes.
to be as high as we are, it's like, yeah, it's even more so to me. It's very,
And there was some, and even in Michigan, there was a lot of award winners in Michigan. I think Grand Haven, Zeeland, and Holland all won awards. I think there were others, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but yeah, it's again, to have that highest honor, I think is really indicative of the staff that we have more than anything. So that's why I think it's a great award.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to performance data, and I'll jump right to the cost per kilowatt hour. Real quick, the first graphs are very much the same that we see every month. But Jim, this is the point that I was making earlier, is the dark blue graph, or the dark blue line is our residential. You've seen continued uptick in the average cost per kilowatt hour, because that's it's your total bill divided by your kilowatt hours, or sorry, the other way around, kilowatt hours divided by your total bill. But across our average, across the industrial, across the commercial, we saw a decrease, but there's so few kilowatt hour sales at the residential level that fixed charge is just spread across so many fewer. So that's why when I see things like that, bills tend to be much lower, but the actual cost per kilowatt hour does increase, but the total bill still tends to be relatively low, and is a byproduct of the fact that customers are just using fewer kilowatt hours. So but you can see that from a residential level, the last couple months, we have seen an uptick in overall cost per kilowatt hour. But again, you can also see how that fluctuates. And, here it is largely driven by the CCA. Here, we weren't hearing customers say that, hey, we've seen a downward trend, because there was a 3-month downward trend, and then it kind of creeps back up, but it's very cyclical throughout the year. And the other thing is that the thing, if you look at the low point, it's in the middle of summer where there's more kilowatt hours. So bills are still probably, all-in bills are still probably a little higher, but the cost per kilowatt hour gets driven down. So there's a lot of pieces at play when customers say, hey, I've seen an increase. And that's why I like to sit down with customers, really look at which components of the bill have gone up and where, and how's their usage been impacted. And then we can go from there. And then it always helps to highlight the comparison to the alternative, which is about 25 to 27% higher. And that's a real number. There's a couple of those customers in the room, and
Yes.
so
Well, plug in more Christmas tree lights and no one knows it.
then we'll move on to cash and investments. And I just want to highlight real quick, what you see here is reflective of, in the October number, is reflective of the sale of the line check. So the proceeds from the line check, but also the kind of green squiggly line at the top. You'll notice a significant reduction in that. It's equipment replacement fund. We cut the check for the new truck. But it's also, you see why we were saving for it. It's
early, but
yeah, hey, we'll take it. So cash overall is in a really healthy position. We do have quite a bit of the capital budget left in the year, and that's pretty cash intensive. And we have a very large wire order that's supposed to be here any day. It'll be delayed 3 more times.
Is the I'm not going to call its real name, the green machine, gone?
The green machine is currently residing in Kalkaska, I believe. Isn't that what you guys said? So it was roadworthy enough to make it to Kalkaska. Yeah, I think we got just over $7,000 for it, 7.5, something like that. Yeah, 7.3. Yeah, ended up getting 7.3 for a 30-year-old truck. I think it was I don't know what year it was. Old old model, 92, yeah.
Then with me.
Same. You're not old, the truck is.
Get up there. It's a good fit. Yeah.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll highlight is if you go to the PCA spreadsheet, we have seen, and this is what that customer could have been noticing too, Jim, is our costs, and this lags every year. You can start to see kind of that cyclical nature of the PCA, but we are, we're because there's a delay in our costs, we're getting those summer costs right now. We're getting our summer transmission, our heavier, more expensive power comes in the summer, so there's just higher bills in the summer, and it forces that PCA up. Now, I would say the PCA is more elevated than I would care for, and a lot of that is being driven by working capital requirements and making sure we have adequate credit assurances at the highest level with MISO and the regional transmission operators. So we've had to essentially, there's been a lot of creditworthiness objectives at MPPA as the markets have been disrupted, we'll say. So we've seen significant increases in working capital requirements to guarantee kind of our ability to follow through on certain financial transactions. And that is the performance data. If anybody has any questions.
Good.
All right, I'm gonna hand it over to Zach. He's got an easy one this month.
Super easy one.
Been a great month.
Yeah, so we had one outage, Clark Street and Center Street. It's right at the end of the day, so we were right next to it on the way in. It was a swirl, took 15, 16 minutes, and everybody's back on.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a great, I mean, it doesn't get better than that. The only way it gets better than that is no report at all, but
Yeah,
a total of 80 customer minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes out is,
super easy.
it's hard to complain with a 15-minute outage. So.
Bravo.
One less squirrel to burn the turkey at Thanksgiving.
Well, the nice thing with that is we don't have a lot of really short duration outages because we take a lot of steps to avoid critters, things like that. And so, one of the important metrics that we do measure against every year is what that average restoration time is. That tends to be elevated because the outages we do see tend to be bigger in nature, or they end up happening on the weekend. So to see a really quick duration outage like this is, for one, it highlights the responsiveness of the staff, but it also is abnormal because we just protect against what we can, and the crews are very proactive in making sure they critter guard everything they can whenever they're whole. So there's no
critter guarded pole.
What?
Was it critter guarded?
It is now.
Is now, it was one that wasn't?
Okay.
I think there's only been like one repeat offender or
Yeah.
something.
Which is actually pretty good, because like the other places I've worked, you would usually find the animal guard laying next to the animal. So our stuff works pretty good.
That's funny. Cool. Well, thanks, Zach. That was a quick and easy one. I like it. We'll move on to the income statement a little bit. Nothing necessarily abnormal to report. I do want to highlight a couple things real quick, and it's that bottom left kind of area. You'll see the $22,000. That's it's a moving target at this point. That's our expense for sending the guys to Florida. That all comes back to us. Plus overhead, there's a difference in how we bill and how we account for things. So that will actually transition to a slight gain, even though for all intents and purposes, it's not a gain. Then there's also the gain and loss of sale of property and investments. That's at $49,000. That is the line shack proceeds net of the undepreciated roof value. So we put the roof on the line shack. I don't remember what year it was, but it had not fully depreciated at the time of sale. And so we had to just net that against the proceeds. But again, pretty much staying in line, or exceeding the budget. The individual month net incomes fluctuate quite a bit, are very much timing based, but if you look at the overall picture, we're sitting at a fairly similar position as we were last year. I'll go ahead and spill the beans a little bit, and some of the reports, and it's related to the income statement. We've hired a few individuals since the last meeting. Actually took the opportunity that we had one position posted for a line worker and decided to go ahead and hire two great candidates. I talked to Craig today and put it pretty succinctly when he said it's an investment in the future. But we have Ryan obviously retiring and Zach stepping into to the manager's position, so we need to backfill his position. And then we have another gentleman that is eligible for retirement at any time now. So to bring two highly qualified journeymen on and to have them, give them the opportunity to learn from Ryan and the seasoned line workers here is really a great investment for us as a utility. And I'd say it's a great investment for the community. So I would say, I bring it up now because when we were evaluating whether or not we had the capacity to hire a second one, it was very much a financial decision that we knew we needed to make happen. We needed to sharpen a pencil to the point where we could make it pencil out and be advantageous because of where we are sitting financially in our cash management strategy and our cash recovery strategy, along with the income statement and certain other factors. We're very confident in our ability to go ahead and add both without it having any sort of long-term detrimental impact to the utility. So if we could do that, then it's only a positive. It's really an investment in the community. So, yeah.
And who knows what kind of employee you would find on in 6 months if you had to hire them. This guy's gone and now I'm back doing another search. And what does that cost you?
A lot. Megan and I were just talking about that. The opportunity cost is, and I also say, we started looking for this position beginning of August, maybe. Yeah. We talked to one individual before these two that we hired, and he didn't show up for an interview. These two are in our backyard. We needed to expand our search, and we're looking out of state at this point to fill this role. And the one gentleman is, I think, born and raised in Alto and had a contractor background. Is going to bring a great skill set. The other gentleman lives over in the Rockford area. And so they're both in our backyard, both topped out journeymen with great experience. And we've onboarded one. His name's Ryan Hanachek. He's the one from Alto. The whole having two Ryans is going to be wildly confusing. But if that's the biggest hurdle we have to overcome, then we're sitting in a good spot. But then the next gentleman will start next Monday. His name's Brett Farley. Struggle not to call him Chris. And then we also, while I'm talking about staffing and getting on that topic, our new communication specialist also started yesterday. Her name's Alyssa Keck, and Craig was in the office today and had the opportunity to meet Ryan and Alyssa. And we're thrilled to have all three of them joining the team.
Once they get comfortable and they're on board and everything, I know it's an imposition, whatever, but I really would like them to attend a board meeting. And if it's only just for introductions for them to introduce themselves and us as board members to meet and greet them. I think there's value in that. And I'm just saying, I'd like to see that happen.
I think that's a reasonable request. So. Any questions on the income statement? Or the new hires, which has nothing to do with the income statement, but it got thrown in right there. It does. Oh, everything touches this. This is everything touches this. Almost. Agree. Cool. Really agree. All right. I'm gonna roll on to capital projects. I don't have much to report here. really a lot of this current month's spend was in system expansion budget. I do want to follow up on a question you had last month about the IT related projects, and I was confident but told you I'd follow up with you. It does appear that the IT related projects have gone over budget, but that is not inclusive of invoicing to the city. So that number will be reduced when the project hits a critical, when we get pretty much to a critical point. Megan will invoice the city, and the city will pay for their key portion of it. And that's a split based on different factors, but that number will come down. We currently have about $92,000, or we have $92,000 in it roughly, which shows a $12,000 overage, but it's really not. It will be reduced based on that amount that'll be invoiced to the city. Any questions on capital projects?
Are you guys all done on Washington Street? Haven't seen you guys there in a while.
We have more to do on the east side of, there will be more coming. They pulled off we did the up Washington, or not Washington, yeah, Washington north. Yeah, heading north. We did that, took care of all that, got ready to serve the 11 homes that are going to be built up there. We wanted to put them on the increased voltage, the new voltage, and on new infrastructure. And then we still need to go, there's a couple more streets. I think we have to go south down Jefferson, and then we'll also build up Shepherd's Hill, rebuild up Shepherd's Hill. So yeah, we will return back there, but they pulled off for Creekside Kingdom for some tree trimming work, for Stony Bluff. They're currently working in Perry's neck of the woods to Stony Bluff. Yeah, so they've kind of just pulled off and are prioritizing some other items right now. But it's one of the things that really drove part of our decisions on hiring 2 line workers, is the amount of line work that we have to do, the amount of projects that are lined up, and how difficult it is to get them done. And that's not from a lack of effort or planning or anything. It's just a lack of resources. We have more work than we have ability to tackle.
So is it manpower or is it getting materials too?
It's more manpower than anything. We have the materials, and we're not understaffed. It's just we have a lot to do. And Zach and Ryan do a great job of balancing customer needs versus system needs. And that's always a constant balance, I would say. And I'll say that's a good problem to have, because there's a lot of municipals that aren't balancing customer issues. They're not balancing customer needs because they don't have growth. They don't have the expansion that we're seeing. So
that's that gold award.
hey, we do what we can. And those are capital projects. Next up is the distribution report. Zach, if you want to take it away.
Stand by my report.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. There's some good information in there. Please read. Casey, distribution or generation report.
Stand by my report.
I'm going to pause a little bit and highlight, later we'll highlight some of the tours.
No.
Casey does a fantastic job working with the kids, and I had the opportunity. Casey was thrown into the Think Energy, the actual presentation to the kids this year, and did a great job with it. He's a natural. He's got an ability to connect with 4th graders. We had a blast doing it. And then the field trips are great as well, and always something we get positive feedback from the school on. So I want to thank Zach and his crew and Casey for everything that they put into the field trips. And if you haven't seen, if we finish in time, it's worth the 30-second demo to show the poll this year. So Casey hooked up 12 volt DC. Casey and Raleigh. Perfect. Both of them, they hooked up some DC power and energized the lines. And when they did it, the power actually flowed through the cutout. So as kids closed the cutout in, they lit up. The overhead power lines lit up. And when they closed in the cutout, you could watch it feed through and light up the rest. It was great. It was a great addition. If you're on Facebook, I think Lisa put a Facebook video out today, actually. So of one of the kids closing in a cutout.
Oh,
Awesome. So thank you all.
very cool.
Next up is Megan. She's the big talker today. So
Skip them out.
One thing I do want to highlight here, Casey, only because Casey brings it up and Megan does, is we had Casey really has knocked it out of the park. Helping out with some electrical rewiring at the office. It's been IT related, but one of the big asks from the office is to put dimmers on the lights. It's a small thing. You don't think of it, but when you walk in the morning and it's fairly dark and it's lit up, like you flip the light and it's a whole announcement in the morning. Everybody close your eyes. So it's a small upgrade, but it's something that's very much geared towards making the work environment a better environment.
So I'll say, I mean, we hired contractors.
Yes, that's true.
Farm.
But you,
It's a project that I manage, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna.
no, that's a much better way of putting it. Yes, Casey's it has been a big project to manage.
You didn't put in daylight saving sensitive lighting, so it would automatically gradually come down to you find dimmer.
That's freaking.
That is kinda cool.
That's pretty neat.
I will say that I don't think they've been past like half. Since they've been installed. We all keep them pretty good.
Yes,
It's great.
it's been a good upgrade.
No, because I have a lamp at, when I'm sitting at my desk at 5:30 in the morning.
I also want to highlight, we brought in Faith as a high school student, and she's been with us, and she has moved on with life and is on to her next adventure. So I want to highlight her. She has been absolutely phenomenal to have on the team. Hired her when she was in high school. I think I mentioned she was the first, I don't know if it's true or not, but she was the first employee to graduate high school as an employee. I'm sure it's not accurate, but whatever, we can say whatever we want till somebody corrects it. But thank you,
Was that
Megan.
a School and work program or?
No, it was just we had a need and there was an opportunity, and she had a need and a desire, and it matched up with our need, and she was a great fit. We will be looking for somebody to fill a similar role.
That's very cool.
Yes. All right, so we'll move on to the manager's report. I do want to start a little bit with a little bit more of a safety update. We did have this past month, we did have a safety near miss. That was pretty significant. It ultimately was dealt with by management. I want to commend Zach for his efforts to investigate and work with me to help piece it all together, but wanted to report that to the board because it's such an important value of ours, safety, and thought that the board should be aware that there was a significant safety incident that was dealt with. It did result in disciplinary actions. If anybody'd like any more details, please don't hesitate to reach out, but I did think it was important to share with the board that there was something that came up, it was addressed, and meaningful changes have been made as an outcome. So I want to thank Zach again for all of his involvement in that. Other than that, I talked about I do want to highlight MMEA is picking up a little bit. It's not mentioned in here, but just of interest to the board. Ann Arbor voted almost 80% in favor of creating a sustainable energy utility, which would be essentially a new municipal utility in Michigan. It's not something I've ever been a part of. It's not something anybody that I'm aware of has been a part of. Something we're paying attention closely to, and we're working with them, we're in communication when I say we, MMEA is in communications with them, and yeah,
What's so in the 80% voting, the public, so is it a done deal? And do they have to, I mean, is this a year out? Is this 10 years from now? Is it?
to be determined.
Okay.
We're not sure. When we all sat through, Ann Arbor showed up to or they presented at the MMEA general membership meeting in fall in Port Huron. They kind of shared some of their thoughts and how they're going to coexist with DTE and how they're going to help facilitate renewable deployments for their customers. This utility will look different than what you typically think of a municipal utility looking like. A lot of those details are yet to be determined, and I hate to I'd hate to misstep and misrepresent their intentions, but, I did think it was of note because it will be in the news. And if you haven't already seen it, I would expect you'll see it cross the wire somewhere along the way. Megan and I have continued to work with UFS, and just yesterday, we started honing in on what our expected rate increase will be for next year. And it's going to be a very modest increase. We're looking at somewhere between 0.5% and 1%. Again, very much in line with our cash management strategy that we've implemented a few years ago. Next month, we will be joined by Jillian, who is, I don't know exactly what her title is with UFS, but she's great to work with. We worked with her for a few years, and she's the one that presented virtually last year. So she's intending to be here in person this year. Look forward to having her join and present, because we continue to execute on the plan that we laid out a few years ago, and it's always nice to see 3-4 year commitments ultimately land where you hoped they would land. Especially with something so important as cash and such a moving target with days of cash fluctuating on an annual basis. Also next month, potentially I'm hoping a presentation on the Earned Sick Time Act. This will ultimately result in future board action. We have to update some of our policies, and next month I'm hoping to kind of lay out a little more details of what the law says and what adjustments we need to make to our policies to become compliant. We've been working with our labor attorney to review policies and just discuss compliance strategies. And I like to start sharing some of our compliance strategies next month and get initial board feedback. But we still have a few opportunities to get together and fine tune all the policies before it gets implemented at I think it's February 21st of 2025 that the law goes into effect. Because I know, Perry, you typically ask every once in a while about RP3 and what we're doing kind of between the applications. And we had a very productive leadership team meeting along with Lisa joined us. She does a great job managing the RP3 application process. But we went through the full RP3 application and just made sure we were still in compliance, that we were documenting everything appropriately. And we had a follow-up meeting that was scheduled, assuming that there are things that we need to revisit. And we'll revisit them in a year, because the guys and everybody are doing a fantastic job keeping up on everything. So that was a really productive meeing. And then lastly, I want to highlight Mark Drogue. He celebrated his quarter century with Lowell Light and Power, and that's a tremendous accomplishment. And just couldn't be any more thrilled to have Mark on the team and everything he brings to the table. So 25 years is a heck of an accomplishment, especially if you listen to some of the stories and the different times different iterations of the utility that he's been a part of. And Mark brings so much value to the table.
And knowing Mark, and it's still 25 years, it's still a joy for him to show up every morning at Lowell Light and Power. I mean, you think you'd be burnt out and you're kind of going like, I'm just putting my days. That's not Mark. I mean, he is gun ho from sun up till sundown.
It's yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Plain and simple. He's ready to go. Loves it. He tells me every time I see him that he's having more fun than he's ever had working. So I take that as a point of pride that for myself, and everybody should that works with him. So, and that is the manager's report. One of the things I want to touch on in the manager's report real quick is I'd ask everybody to review the benevolence report a little bit. It's in the informational items. I'm going a little out of order, but we do have final numbers on Creekside Kingdom. And it came in, we ended up putting just under $10,000 into Creekside Kingdom from an in-kind contribution standpoint. So I do fully anticipate that we will exceed that $12,000 total budget. Obviously, as I mentioned last month, and we talked about, Creekside Kingdom, we're very unique. We were very uniquely positioned to meet that need. And, it's a once in a 25-year expense. So in my opinion, it shouldn't be detrimental to the other things that we do on a reoccurring basis. So, get a little bit of board feedback here. The policy indicates that I need to come back and report if we exceed the total value or the total budget. And then any future board action or any future request is board action. But I'd like to potentially bring an action item next month to either go ahead and proactively increase the total in-kind benevolence budget, or ask for approval from the board to, for the specific reoccurring in-kind request that we get. And we get an in-kind request from the YMCA to help put up their lights, for their Christmas tree. And then obviously the board is aware of all of the banner work that we do, and I want to make sure that we continue to provide that service to the community.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if the board has any feedback on how to mechanically go about that.
I personally, think like the Creekside Kingdom, that we vote, or is we take that amount. Like you said, it's once in 25 years.
Separate.
Just take that right out. And then that puts us that amount, and then that puts us back in compliance, and we don't have to, I don't want to, I personally, want the staff, to continue to handle, and the staff and the general manager to handle the benevolence and everything. I don't want to be burdensome or whatever with every $500, $250, whatever, coming back to the board every time. So I feel like, the Creekside Kingdom was well worth it. It's once in 25 years, just separate out as a separate line item or whatever. That's my thought. And we can address that at in the December's meeting, and everything, but that's the direction I am comfortable going in.
All right, and if there's no objections to that, we'll craft something. I'll bring it as an action item next month, and essentially it'll be to, treat the Creekside Kingdom as a one-off project that that's handled outside of the standard. It's like an extenuating circumstance.
Yeah.
But yes, I'll work with you. Yeah.
Full year 2025.
Yeah.
Treat it as.
Separate from the benevolence budget.
And non-benevolent.
I think without Lowell, they'd be still trying to put that pine tree.
It's all earlier, man.
I think there was a piece that's mislabeled on that.
Yeah, there were.
So I kind of went out of order, but I wanted to get board feedback on exactly the mechanics of getting this, because I know we've talked and we've had some ongoing conversations about Creekside Kingdom. So I just wanted to make sure that, the board wasn't surprised and we all worked towards the same solution. So, also want to highlight, Lisa took on, this role as Emily vacated, pulling together some pictures. She does a great job, but she just wanted to highlight some of the, social media posts. Specifically, I think she put a post in there, about the guys going to Florida. It was I think that might have fallen through the cracks, but, tons of great information there. There's all the, coloring contest winners. That was a ton of fun. This was a great, the parents sent that picture in, and that comment, and it's always awesome when parents do that. And harvest celebration, we had a great time. We highlighted it last month, but had a great time on the showboat. Want to thank the showboat board for working with us, and it really was a great event for everybody, I think. So it was a lot of fun. And then Power Fest, could not have gone off any better. Power Fest was phenomenal, I thought. Lots of great pictures there. I don't think I saw the picture of Rally climbing from the top of the pole. Lily had to get in a picture with Gavin and Julie. There's a pizza truck everybody might be familiar with, and a guy that might look familiar too.
Yeah. There's a guy I know.
There's a guy, no, well, Max, right?
Like,
I love that picture. Those are Steve's 3 kids. But you can tell we had a great turnout. Ton of fun. The light switch decorating was a huge
yeah,
hit.
it was a hit. Yeah,
Lily still has hers.
yeah. Ours is some. This is installed.
As it
Yeah,
installed.
nice.
Lily just carries hers around with her. So, and that's manager's report and all the pictures, and there's scheduled meetings, but I'll hand it over to you, Fred.
Okay. Yeah, our next regular board meeting is December 10th. And word comment, Tina.
The gold award for the survey, I was astounded by the numbers because, like I mentioned, excuse me, the column where the renters answered you, number one, huge, they answered you. And number two, the numbers are, as we would say in Blue Cross Blue Shield marketing, the column, the people that answered that you would have not even given a second thought to ask them, that's your true numbers of where you guys are at. And that is huge for you guys. I'm just thrilled to death. I'm looking forward to next time that survey comes out, that they have the opportunity, whether they give their name or not, if they'd like a phone call back to talk over what's their thoughts or what have you. Because that's actually my job at Blue Cross Blue Shield. And they ask these questions that you never give a thought that they're thinking in terms of that. So I always loved my circle back for the Blues. Bravo to Mark for 25 years, being loyal to us. He came to work here and he didn't take off and go work at the bigger brother that's out there. So I really appreciate that. And that's what I have.
Jim.
Just before today, I had our little Chromebook, meeting with the board, and, they wanted to thank Low Light and Color for time spent during the festival, Fall Fest. It was a win-win for both organizations. Matter of fact, they already booked the date for next year. They kept it with you for Charlie to come back and make a recommendation. Again, kudos to Mark for 25 years, and I know Charlie's going to follow up with the Mike Burns in the city, but I will as well to make sure he's where it's coming. So that's it.
Craig.
Well, of course, I mean, I'm really happy to see the results of the survey. I just says a lot about how everybody is really dedicated to making things work around here. Also, I want to say that Public Power Fest, to come in here that day and see all of the kids and families in here wanting to be here. They made an effort to come here to this facility and see what we do. And I just thought that was so neat. And, this is something kids are going to remember for, the rest of their lives. So yeah, I think that's great. Also, reading in Currents Magazine today, I was reading where Traverse City Light and Power was teaming up with Interlochen Art School to help spruce up some aesthetically dull places, okay? And apparently they were painting transformers and stuff like that. And I was also thinking, it would be neat to do something like that on the back of the Light and Power building, just that one brown painted wall and also that fence. All of that could be one huge mural thing, and if maybe we could partner with Lowell Arts and see if, get a design contest and, I don't know, have it in sections, maybe have it as one full mural, I don't know. But, it would be interesting to see if something like that could be hammered out, and that could be a more aesthetically pleasing spot. It's certainly a busy area these days with people coming to Sabor, Easy Street, the businesses, that are right there in the parking lot. So I think it's an opportunity to brighten things up for our community.
And I know actually, you bring it up, I know the city Mike is working with, I can't think of who that group is, but
Yeah.
they got a playful name. I can't think it.
I'll think of it here in a minute, but we saw them up when they were up in Traverse City at the MLI convention and somebody got part of it. We're trying to do that throughout the city. They talked about some sidewalk art, some other building arts.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to put a concept here. What does that art mean? Art means something totally different than you and me and Perry and
Right.
think. So again, well, what does that look like? So there is some talk amongst the city about that, but since it's your building, I guess you could do your own mural if you wanted to.
I would just say, I think there's potentially some opportunities to work with the city and see if we can maybe be a test, like a pilot or something. And so I'd want to weave it into, if there's something bigger happening, be great to weave it into that. Have whatever that looks like. I think, there's been some talk of painting some transformers and some other things. I don't know if Ryan's filled you, if there's been any traction on that recently, but I know Ryan's had, maybe Rich or somebody from the DPW reach out a while back, just kind of exploring that option. So it's on the periphery, but, yeah, I think it's worth exploring for sure.
Yeah, I think that the back of that building and that fence, I mean, the fence kind of hides part of back of the building. I drove through there today, but yeah, the fence could be part of it. Yeah, cool. So I guess that's it for me.
Daniel,
Thanks to the Showboat for hosting us a little bit for Harvest Festival. It's inner workings with everything in the city and various organizations is always great to see, including getting the line check moved and maybe fully settled. I don't know if there's anything left on their side, but that's great.
Line check's done.
Yeah, really great.
Yeah, line check's been sold and sold again.
And we'll see what happens to it right beside our office. Hopefully we get a better view. I want to say, I don't know who or whom in the office, just kind of catching the policy update need on the deposit refund, but it's good to see people staying on top of it, like knowing that we don't want to revisit every policy all the time, but it's nice to see that somebody is keeping that. So we don't have 2 years from now, somebody complaining about a deposit and our policy says this and we're not following it. So always good to see. Congrats to Mark. Congrats to everybody for the gold. When you look at the different categories of questions, they're all really high. All of those take great inner workings. It's not just, line workers doing a great job or office doing a great job or above management doing great planning. It's like you can see it's a reflection of all of those things working together. And that's really great to see. And then, welcome to the newbies, and maybe we'll see them and meet them soon.
Okay. And then Andrew sent me with some comments.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, he had 3 comments. He wanted to welcome the new team members. And all these were with exclamation points, but I'm not going to read them like that. But know that he's enthusiastic about it. We appreciate him sharing these. But I wanted to welcome the new team members, wanted to thank Riley and Jeremy for helping out in Florida, and then also wanted to congratulate Mark on a quarter century at Light and Power. So I wanted to make sure that Andrew's comments were carried forward and with very positive comments and enthusiastic comments.
So it's down to me.
Indeed.
Again, pretty much same sentiment. Great for Mark. Great to have new employees. I look forward, having new employees and hopefully they come away with a great experience. I think all of our staff, is, I just can't say enough good things about Lowell Light and Power. And part of it is, it's the facility. I mean, when we first started in this facility, we were kind of, oh yeah, okay. Well, to bring the community in and if you walk out into the warehouse, I mean, some days, or you walk into Casey's domain, I mean, you literally look like you can eat off the floor. I mean, it's that pristine, it's that clean, it's, it says a lot about the staff, and the organization of Lowell Light and Power. And I just can't, say enough great things about it. And with that, I'll leave it at that and entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Hold on, let me get the camera turned off, please.
And it's before 8 o'clock.